Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you our FBS Game of the Week preview between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Texas A&M Aggies. Now let's take a look at some keys to victory for both teams, starting with the Crimson Tide.
Alabama's offensive success always comes off of the running game, so getting Yeldon off to a big start in this matchup is key for the Crimson Tide, and they can have some success running the football versus Texas A&M, but this offensive line of Alabama has to play better. Versus Virginia Tech, they struggled. They have to do a better job this time around versus A&M. Defensively, the Tide must be able to learn from past mistakes. When you face Texas A&M, it's all about gap discipline and avoiding man coverage at times. You can go man, but in certain situations, you want to force Johnny Manziel to make accurate throws through zones. If they can do that, they have a great chance of coming away victorious. Now let's move over to Texas A&M in this matchup. The Aggies are still an explosive offensive football team. Their ability to spread out a defense is what gave Alabama problems last season. This time around, they must utilize Manziel's legs as the illusion to create opportunities for the running backs. I think that's how they can have a chance. Defensively, I look at cornerback Tremaine Jacobs having to mirror Amari Cooper, who's an outstanding receiver for Alabama. Wherever he goes, whether it be as a split or even in the slot, you have to find a way to match Jacobs up on Cooper throughout the course of the ball game. And they also have to be alert for Alabama's running backs in the screen game. And Texas A&M has to do a better job with stopping the run. They struggled versus Rice. They also struggled versus Sam Houston. And stopping the run is all about attitude, and that has to change this week. Otherwise, Alabama will be able to move the football up and down the field with those running backs. Now here are some coaching points for both teams in this matchup. For Alabama, you want to go with one extra safety and one less linebacker on the football field. That way, you can match up well versus Johnny Manziel and that spread offense of Texas A&M. Try to find a way to get Landon Collins on the field in your regular defense versus that A&M offense. And you want to get A-gap and B-gap pressure versus Manziel. Here's a guy you want to keep in the box, tackle to tackle, force him to make consistent plays throwing the football downfield, and slow the ball game down. Alabama does have a size advantage up front. They can run that football, slow the game down. That way you force A&M to maximize their possessions. Now for Texas A&M in this ball game, you look at the tight end play. That's going to be crucial in this matchup. In order for these guys to have any shot of beating Alabama, the tight end play is going to have to step up big. That's in the running game as well as in the passing game. Nehemiah Hicks and Cameron Clear will have to have huge days this weekend versus Alabama. And Johnny Manziel has to hit those passes early. Alabama will play a lot of coverage. They're going to force him to be a pocket passer. He has to show he has the accuracy consistently to get Alabama out of that defense. And I also look at two guys defensively that have to step up and have big days this weekend. That's Kirby Enos, a defensive tackle, who's the nose guard in that 3-4 defense, and the rush in Julian Obioha. If those guys can have big days, it slows down the Bama rushing attack, thus putting A.J. McCarron back to the pass, thus allowing the Aggies to get pressure on the quarterback. The X factor for Alabama will be defensive coordinator Kirby Smart. This is the second time around versus this A&M spread attack. Let's see what he has cooked up to slow down Manziel and also those receivers. The X factor for Texas A&M will be the running game with the running backs. Can those guys in the backfield get it done if Alabama takes away Johnny Manziel's ability to run the football? If they can't do it, it's going to be a long day for that offense. Now here are some of the 2014 draft prospects you want to keep an eye on in this ballgame. For Alabama, we've talked about this before. Defensively, they are loaded. Two guys that have to step up and play better. Cyrus Kawangio, the offensive tackle, has to play better this time around. Last game versus Virginia Tech, he struggled, as well as A.J. McCarron. Has to be more accurate and decisive with the football in the face of pressure. For Texas A&M, you look at Johnny Manziel. I'm a big fan of his. I think he can be an effective pro quarterback. He has unique skill sets that you can't coach. Left tackle Jake Matthews is an ideal tackle, blind side protector, but also has the skills to play the right side. And Kirby Enos, we talked about him having to have a big day. He's one of the better defensive players on his football team. And Ben Molina, the running back, keep an eye on him. Very shifty, can catch the football out of the backfield, and also can help out as a returner. Dwight Stevenson was a consensus All-American for Alabama in 1979, and Bear Bryant called him the best football player he has ever coached. That's high praise coming from the Bear. This is a guy that was 6'2", 255, was an undersized center, but was dominant game in, game out. Darren Lewis is one of the best running backs in Texas A&M history from 1987 to 1990. Here's a guy that rushed for over 5,000 yards and finished as the Southwest Conference's all-time leading rusher, and in 1990 he was a consensus All-American pick. I like Texas A&M in this ball game. The Johnny Manziel effect, in my opinion, gives any defense problems. Why? Because now the football field is balanced. It's 11 on 11. You have to use a defensive player to account for the quarterback now, and this is going to create one-on-one matchups. And they do have some outstanding wide receivers, guys that can go up and make plays on 50-50 balls. So I like the Aggies to win this ball game at home versus Alabama.